Ever since Fortune became a fan favorite trait in set 4, Riot decided to include an economy trait ever since. Initially, they were a bit more tame with stuff like Draconic, but things quickly spiraled out of control with traits like Mercenary, Pilled Over, or Heartsteel that had a massive impact on both ladder and competitive play. With set 12, Riot is trying out something different, and for the first time in a long time, there won't be an economic trait in a new set. This quickly made some players mad because chasing the dopamine rush from a large cash out is their favorite activity and something they want to do every game. Now I have some good news. There actually is a lot to chase. Riot knows that the eco traits are extremely popular, so they added a lot of different mechanics for players to engage with. In this video, I want to showcase all the different ways you can gamble away your sanity and hopefully get that big cash out to stomp your opponents. But before we get started, I do have to clarify something from my previous video. Now, while I do appreciate so many people being on board with my goal of beating Froden's subscriber count, I think some people might have gotten the wrong idea. We are trying to climb up to him, not pull him down. We already made great progress, so hopefully we can reach the 50k mark towards the end of the set. So click that subscribe button if you either want to support the cause or stay up to date on set 12 mechanics. So what exactly has Riot been cooking? For starters, they have added a total of 4 gacha augments in set 12. 3 of them act like a quest where you have to reach a specific goal to receive your reward. Here you can find the augments, an upgraded adventure, trade tracker, and the golden quest. The adventure quest has the same requirement as the nerfed Yordle trait in Pengu's party, so that should give you an idea on how difficult it is to achieve. Unless of course you get really lucky, you are probably looking at the start of stage 4, but there's always the chance of low rolling your units, so there is quite a risk involved. The reward you can expect is somewhat similar to the golden egg. For example, you might end up getting a support Thieves Gloves, a Zeke's Herald, a Chalice, and 5 gold. Nothing that will straight up win you the game, but a nice boost to have, especially if you were looking to play tier 1 reroll anyway. In case you're wondering about the loot tables for anything that I talk about in this video, I will be putting them in the description of the video, or you can just follow me on Tactor, where I will be highlighting all of my guides. The advantage here is that it's a lot easier to update a written guide, and PBE content doesn't stay up to date for very long. The golden quest wants you to do the exact opposite and simply save up as much gold as possible. If you reach the 162 gold requirement, then you will receive an itemized 2-star legendary. Riot created a specific setup for any of the 8 legendaries. For example, Seraph will always come with a Shojin, an Archangel, and a Gunblade. Camille will have an Infinity Edge, a Hand of Justice, and an Edge of Night. As you can tell, these are very fitting and powerful items, so you should be able to stabilize right away and build your comp around whatever legendary you received in the end. The third augment, Trade Tracker, is definitely the most chaotic one. You receive 5 random emblems after activating 7 non-unique traits for 1 combat. I suppose this is the most manageable condition, but the outcome can definitely screw you over. I suppose it would be cool to somehow combine it with Pandora's items, so you can potentially close out the game with a prismatic chase trait as your win condition. Though this might be a tough balancing act, so maybe the better strategy is to take the augment salvage bin and split all of the craftable emblems into spatulas, or just aim for multiple tactician's crowns. There's also a charm called Salvager that you can find starting stage 4 that has the same effect, so this might be something that you could potentially force. Finally, the most important gacha augment is called Fortune Favors the Bold. This augment effectively works like the Fortune trait from set 11, except it doesn't have any unit requirement. This is kind of a big deal, since if you want, you can literally sell your board in stage 2 to guarantee the loss streak and prevent getting griefed. Unless of course the opponent has the crystal ball charm and also sells his board, but surely nobody would ever think of doing that. It still has the requirement of needing to win to receive the cash out, but at this point I think any Fortune player knows the drill, and you can even look for some powerful combat charms to help you out with the cash out. As for the loot, you can expect something very close to the original Fortune loot table, though obviously everything is still subject to change. If the augment ends up overperforming because players are open forting for the guaranteed streak, then it wouldn't surprise me if Riot ends up nerfing the rewards. Now there is one glaring problem that I haven't addressed yet. Augments are RNG, and it might take hundreds of games to find and actually have a successful game with one of these gacha augments. If you're a player who wants to force this type of playstyle every game, then you either have to constantly reset your games in stage 2-1, or a better alternative is to get comfortable with the Sugarcraft trait. Sugarcraft has 5 units units with Soraka, Rumble, Bard, Jinx and Gwen, and it also has a craftable emblem with the help of a BF sword. The trait itself grants your Sugarcraft units AD and AP, and this buff gets increased by 10% for every cake layer. At the start of every round, the game grants you points based on the amount of components you had on your units in the previous fight. Going deeper into the trait gives you more stats and, more importantly, a higher multiplier for each component. The cake that you're building is structured like this. You start with 0 points in the first layer. After 15 points, you reach the second layer, followed by 45, 125, 250, 400 and 600 points. Once you've completed the 7th layer with 600 points, you will start to see some rewards. You can think of this trait initially working like 8-bit from set 10, and then it changes into Lagoon from set 7.5. The rewards are not random, and every player receives the same reward for reaching a specific layer. Reaching 600 points nets you 10 gold and a random component. Nothing too crazy, but I mean, this is just the beginning. With 950 points, you receive 15 gold, a golden remover, and an item component. This might be my favorite outcome because I have a lot of strategies planned that depend on a golden remover. So it is nice to know that there's a way to reach one that isn't based around augments. After 1325 points, you get 10 gold, a champion duplicator, and 2 components. With 1750 points, you get 20 gold and a masterwork consumable to transform one of your items into a radiant version. The final bonus layer is at 2200 points, where you receive a tactician's crown, and your points are reduced to 0 since you've reached the maximum. But you're not really starting from the beginning. Instead, a new mechanic is unlocked after you've completed the final layer. The cake grows massively in size, and it starts throwing biscuits to all of your units during combat. Each biscuit grants both HP and attack speed for the rest of combat, massively buffing your entire team and almost certainly guaranteeing your victory. Now, we're still early on the PBE, and these outcomes that I've mentioned are still subject to change. If players reach the high tier outcomes too fast, then you can expect Riot to either nerf the rewards or reduce the multiplier for the item components. Another thing that is likely subject to change is the way points are calculated. At the moment, emblems, support items and artifacts all count as 2 components. This means trainer golems, support golems or the wandering trainer portal are fantastic additions to accelerate your progress, and you want to prioritize every augment that grants you more items in the long run. As a nice side bonus, players can't really grieve themselves with augments like What the Forge, since all of the artifacts still count as completed items. It's always good if there is a safety net to prevent players from griefing their own games, since in the past we definitely had some complaints about interactions like Find Vintage together with Pandora's items. One item that deserves a special mention is Thieves' Gloves. As you might expect, it only counts as 2 components because it is built out of 2 gloves, but the Radiant Thieves' Gloves is treated as 3 completed items or 6 components. This means augments like Rascal Gloves or Accomplice are great choices to boost your sugar levels. There's also a neat little trick you can do towards the end, since you receive a Radiant Masterwork consumable. You might want to build at least 1 Thieves' Gloves, as it's the best item to convert into a Radiant one. I'm not 100% sure if Riot wants this interaction to stay. I don't think it's going to cause too many issues, but in the end, that's up to them. I guess I should also mention the new set mechanic charms, as some of them can grant you temporary items. But the good news is that you can completely ignore this. They will not affect the sugar count. The game only counts the items you have at the start of each round after facing a player, meaning at that point the temporary item is already gone. If everything I mentioned so far sounds too easy for you, then I have a final challenge for you to chase after. The most powerful charm in the game is called Magnum Opus. It costs 66 health, 99 gold, and grants you a permanent 3-star legendary unit. The gold is not really the problem, since you can simply sell your board, but the HP requirement is a tough one because this charm has a special requirement. It can only appear starting stage 7. Having this much HP this late into the game is close to impossible, and even then you still have to find the charm and have enough gold left to buy it. Finding this specific charm might take you the entire set, but if you ever get it, then you have a game worth remembering. Unless of course you roll over it and somebody clips it. But hey, what are the chances of that happening? If you have any questions regarding set 12 or want to report some bugs for me to investigate, feel free to join the Discord in the description below. I hope you learned something and see you next time.